Look, detectives combing through the hood looking for a corpse. Draco hitting, I don't think your body can endure the force. I whipped the fish up with a fucking hanger or a fork. Told that bitch, go ahead, sniff what you want, there's plenty more to snort. I had an outstanding warrant for a short. Turned myself in, rocking Louis and all my jewelry, I wore the court.
Ladies and gentlemen, pogues and grunts, I got a very fucking special guest today, Chief Warrant Officer 2, Kyle Steiner. Kyle, thanks for joining us, brother.
Absolutely, man. My pleasure.
We've had a little back and forth a little bit. I appreciate you taking the time. For the guys, in my listeners that might be living under a rock or don't know who you are, can you give us like a hip pocket bio, please?
Yeah, I mean, I joined the Army in 04, and under an 18 X-ray contract. I was unsuccessful. I was a non-select, saying I was just immature. I got an emergency switch of orders from Fort Hood to Italy to the 173rd. Yeah, a guy I knew was going to Italy, and he had a wife or expectant wife or something in Fort Hood. So we got an order switch. I went to Italy. Best thing that ever happened to me was going to the regular Army. Yeah, absolutely. And people asked me stuff like that I was in the Q course with the first time, and then I met back up with them later, and they're like, oh, do you regret anything? Absolutely not. I got to serve at OP Restrepo, built it, new Restrepo, and had all that documentary stuff come out. And then I spent.
What year was that? What year was original OP?
That was 06 to 07.
Okay. So wait, so you pumped out of Italy for that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Bring me to like the year before when you find out you're going out there maybe, and did you know prior, or was that just something they threw at you?
Are you talking about Restrepo?
Yeah.
Well, we were supposed to go to Iraq. The 173rd was supposed to go to Iraq, so we did all these PMTs, these pre-mission trainings in Germany, and you had like the role players and the Baghdad looking cities and the miles gear, and then we got back and they're like, hey, switch, change of plans. We're one brigade, 2 battalions, and they were like, hey, you're going to Italy, and I was like, ooh, or you're going to Afghanistan. I was like, okay, well, it is what it is. And then I don't know what it was, but we got a brief from the battalion commander or colonel, and he brought us into the theater, and he was like, kind of giving everybody their spiel of like what they're gonna do and where they're going, and none of it sounded good. And but 60-75% of any platoon hadn't been to war. We were on early OEFs and OIFs, so it's like they were like, hey, you guys are just kind of gonna set up this outpost and be bait, and you guys are gonna go here and set this up, and you guys are gonna be pretty alone, and we're like, all right,
a little vague.
And we had no idea. We didn't have any idea what was going on, and even it took a while to hit us, because we got to the base in the Korengal Valley and spent, I don't know, a month and a half or 2 months just kind of hanging out and running ops out of there with the company where the company was at. And then, they're doing all this planning, and then they come down. And mind you, I'm an E4 at the time, so I'm just like picking my nose, like wondering what's going on all the time. I'm like, yep, I have the saw. I'm going to walk this way, and then they're like, hey, empty your rucks. And they start handing us like the twine stacks of sandbags. Hey, you take some of this, you take some of that. Here's a couple of pickaxes. Here's some shovels. And we're like, what the hell are we doing?
The fuck?
And they're like, you guys are going to go up there. And we've been getting shot at from this position a lot. And we were like, to that spot. And like, yep, you're going to go up there. You're going to in place.
You had been there prior already? You had gone through that area?
Yeah. Because like you could see it. It was up the mountain. Now it's about I think a 2-hour walk, if I remember correctly, up. We had points where there was ropes tied off on trees.
So to get there, you're dismounted the whole way. You're not.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
No trucks could make it up there. No birds could land up there. We got everything via sling load, Black Hawk sling loads, and they would just kind of drop it. And we kept having shit roll off the mountain, so we actually had them send us pickets, and we picketed a wall so that when they dropped it, it would roll into this wall like our water and shit. But yeah, we walked up one night and took over their fighting positions. They had dug out holes and
who was there prior, bro?
The Taliban.
No. Who were you like relieving?
Oh, 10th Mountain was there, but they had just done kind of like blocking positions and movement of contacts, and they had gone up in that area. And I guess the company area was just tired of getting slammed by this one spot. And our whole point was to push further south down the valley. So they're like, hey, take that over. That's where the main point of attack is from the Taliban. We're like, all right. So we went up there and like got in their holes with like brass, all their PKM and RPK brass in there and like links. And we're like, okay. And we just started digging it out.
Damn. Did you do like a left seat, right seat with any of the guys like before you know established the air, like you know how when you take over a compound and you're relieving someone, you do kind of like a, hey, this is what's going on in the area, this is what you should be, you know, what were they saying to you?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, the dudes they had gone up there a couple times for missions, I think, but they were like, hey man, it's dicey over here. Like, don't go over there, don't go over there. You're gonna get shot at from there. And we're like,
Shit.
oh shit. And mind you, like I said, 65-75% of a platoon doesn't understand what combat is yet. So you're like,
Yep.
okay, like this is what it is. This is my life. And like most of us thought that until, we started rotating back and we started hearing other stories about dudes in bigger bases with more fortification. We're like, oh man,
What the fuck?
we were
Yeah.
fucked. Like, what were we doing?
So, how long were you with like the group that you were with? I mean, usually when you find out you're deploying, you guys get like a pre-deployment. Usually you're with your guys like, you know, like a year prior. Like, were you guys close? Were you a tight-knit group?
So I wasn't a replacement. So I got to the 173rd and went straight to scouts because I had been in the Q course. I went straight to scouts. And then I ended up not even staying in scouts for like 2 months. I got like they moved me out of scouts after I like messed up this live fire. I got like tangled in a tree with all this spotting scopes. I had like 700 tie downs. So I'm marionetted in this tree. And I was like, I'm like a PFC. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing.
I don't know.
This first sergeant's yelling at me. The next day, they're like, hey, you're
Dude.
going to be the colonel's PSD personal security detachment. And I was like, all right, not knowing that I was pretty much fired. And I was like, oh, I suck.
They're just being nice about it.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. So I spent a couple months doing that. And so when we first deployed to Afghanistan, that's who I was with. And then I had been like, hey, like I've been the battalion CSM's driver and PSD guy. So I was going with him to all the FOBs. And I told him early on, I was like, I want to go to Battle Company Second Platoon because I'd listened to all the ticks and I was like, they're getting into it. And they had taken casualties already. And I was like, I want to be with them. So finally he was like, all right, go. And he sent me away. And I knew most of Battle Second Platoon anyway. I knew quite a bit of them. They were good friends. Italy's small, man. Italy's really, it's not like Bragg, dude. Like
I've heard that.
To do the EIB road march, you have to pretty much walk around the compound like 11 times. Like it's that big. It's like a mile. It's like that big. It's tiny, dude. So everybody. Everybody drinks and hangs out in their lawn chairs in the same row of barracks.
Gotcha.
So I was close with them. And when I got there, they were like, "Oh, thank God! Like more people." And I was like, "Cool." Me and my best friend, who was he was the colonel's PSD guy. And he was a veteran though of OEF 6, but he was with a different company. And so we went to Battle Company and just got in the shit. And it's funny because I got to Battle Company and Second Platoon, and then it was like I'd maybe done like 2 or 3 movement to contacts. They're like, "All right, we're going to build this thing," and I was like, "Shit, really?" I had no idea what was going on. Really out of the loop.
Damn. Okay. So right when you first got there, is it poppy season? Is it summertime? Like what's the vibe?
Well, this is the north, man. So like the far north, it looked like Colorado, dude. It looked like Aspen. Like there's nothing flat. That's why they couldn't drive. You could make it up to the Korengal outpost, and then everything after that was a walk. And we would sit up there looking like Lord of the Flies, hadn't showered in 100 days, hadn't changed your pants. You were just like sitting up there eating MREs every day. And this brass would signal that they're like, hey, we're coming in. We want to see Restrepo. We want to see where 60, 70, 80% of the ordnance are being dropped in support of. We want to see this place that's getting in, 7, 8 ticks a day. And they would land in the base of the valley, and we'd be like beyond glass, like looking down at them. We're like, do we have to shave? And they'd come in and be like, make yourself presentable and shave. And we just looked ragged, and we were like, and they'd be like pointing up, and you'd see like the brief, and they'd be like, yeah, we got to walk up there, sir. And then they never ended up coming up.
Oh, that's
like,
funny.
All right, next time. Because it's like a 2.5 hour walk, and you're going like upwards of 8,500 feet. By the time you're halfway to Restrepo, you were like,
yeah, I can imagine.
Just sucking.
So when you first get in there, obviously the first thing is to build up the OP, right? Or the patrol base. So how long did that take you guys?
I mean, we never stopped improving it. So like through the course of the 15 or so months, we went up there with sandbags and we just started building little sandbag walls. And then eventually we like cleared a flat spot for the the birds to kind of drop these sling loads. And eventually it was water and MREs and ammo, water and MREs and ammo. And first we slept in the dirt. We slept on rocks in these little holes. And then eventually they sent us the little Hescos and some cots. So then we were in cots like over a tarp. And then, that went on for a couple months. And then they started sending us plywood and we started building these like stupid A-frame huts and all kinds of different things. So the picture you see is well into the like 13th, 14th month of us actually like building this thing up, because my pictures are hilarious. They're just us like laying in a bed of rocks. And, it was such it was so tumultuous because you were either on patrol schedule, guard schedule, or you dug. You just dug. I mean, it was straight like what I assume hard labor in like Soviet Union style was like, and like the worst thing is it was this jagged shale that the pickaxes really didn't do a whole lot. The shovels didn't do a whole lot. So what you ended up doing was turning your E-tool like an L, and you'd have to chip it. You'd have to chip it. You'd have to just, and it would fall. And then you'd pick up this big flat piece of shale and put it in the Hesco. And then you just kept doing it. Yeah, it took forever, dude. And there's a really funny picture of me with the post hole thing, the iron bar with the thing. I'm slamming it, trying to get this rock to come off. But you dug, then they would attack and you took up your security positions, you return fire, and then they're like, oh, like back to digging. And then a few minutes later, they'd be like, hey, you're on guard now, or hey, rotate out. You're going on, you're doing this movement to contact. It was nonstop, man. And but we thought that was war. I didn't know any different until I went to Bagram.
You went to a main fob,
yeah. I went to a main fob, man, and it was like me and four other guys. They were like giving us some R&R, and we got like they tore us up. They were like, "Your boots are too dirty."
Oh man, that's the worst.
And we were like, "What?" And like my buddy, Misha had blood on his. He was covered in like crusty blood. And they were like, "You need to go buy a new uniform." And we were like going through the PX, like in Bagram. We're like, what is this? They're like, they have a Burger King. And we just couldn't believe it. We were like, people live like this?
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's the way it was. And they sent a couple guys later on to guard, and they were like, hey, like, you're only allowed one magazine of ammunition, but don't insert it or charge it. And my friends were like, you're serious? Are you serious right now? But we had no idea that the other half lived a different way. We just assumed that was how everybody was, and an SF team came up. Part of the reasons that I ended up wanting to go SF, like seeing them with beards on four-wheelers and like BDUs, I was like, that's the coolest thing ever. But, they came up and they were like, hey, we're just doing a recon this way. We're going to hang out with you for the night. And we're like, all right. And we were sitting around like a half a 55-gallon drum with some Hesco wire over it. And we were like, just by the fire. And they were like, what are you guys doing up here? We're like, we don't know. We're E4s. We were told to be up here. And they're like, this is like Korean War stuff, guys. And we were like, well, I mean,
this is what we do.
This is what they told us to do, And when I got to SF, I got the new guy treatment. They made me stand outside of the team room for like a week, and then the documentary came out, and everybody kind of learned about what had happened, and they were like, they're like, this is you, and I was like, yeah, and I got a little bit of street cred from that, but I always used to tell the older guys, I'm like, look, I like SF. I think you guys are cool. Like I did a lot to get here, but I don't want to get any guff about sucking, because have you ever eaten MREs for 15 months straight?
Yeah, exactly.
I burnt shit nonstop for 15 months. So I ain't even trying to hear, they used to go on 30, 90, 6-month pumps there. And I was like, 15 months, homie. 2 World Series happened while I was gone. Yeah.
I was going to ask you that, dude. So how'd you feel about the documentary in general? Did it paint the picture of like what it really was, or how did it feel like, being there, and then it comes out you're still in? I mean, did you appreciate the documentary, or what's the feeling on it?
I did, man, because I've spoken about this before. We'd had a female journalist crew come out, and they did they're from the New York Times Magazine. They did a piece that not a lot of people liked. I don't think I ever read it, but I heard rumors that it was not good. And then Tim Hetherington and Sebastian Younger came out. They were subcontracted via Dateline or Nightline. I always mess it up. I don't know which one. And it was, hey, go do a war piece. And they were out there, and they would spent 2-3 weeks out there. Everybody was real hesitant of them at first. They were like, I don't know, man, journalists. But they were like, hey, they were really down to earth. They're like, we just want to know what you guys are doing, man. And like, they went on missions with us. They did everything with us. They ate the MREs. They were super cool.
Okay.
So eventually they became family. Like they're like, are you guys going out at 2 a.m.? Like, I want to go. We're like, okay, you can come along. And then they came. So that piece came out in Vanity Fair and Nightline, and it was called Valley of Death. And they go over everything we're doing. They come back a couple months later. We didn't know, and we're like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" And they're like, "Hey, the American public are really into this, and they want another one." So they made another one called "Return to the Valley of Death." And we're like, "Okay, we're gonna be famous. Like people know us now. We're on the news." And they came out like a month later, and we're like, "Again?" And they're like, "No, we secured a loan or whatever from National Geographic, and we're doing our own thing. We're making a thing about you guys."
Oh wow!
And I mean, they became family. Like we loved them. Tim broke his ankle on a mish and walked it out. They were good, man. They were good. They were good dudes. So and we messed with them hard, man. They would come in the guard towers. We messed with them. One of my favorite things me and O'Byrne used to do is we had the old PVS the 14s, the binoculars, and they didn't have anything. They just had like a camera, and they would just like walk around. So you'd pretend like there was a tripwire or something. You'd like step over it and like look at them in the dark and be like this. And they're out there feeling for some shit that's not even there. We mess with them hard. Yeah.
You got to.
But the documentary, once they said they were making it, we were like, all right, whatever. And I had already gone to selection and I was midway through the Q course. They flew a bunch of us out to New York to watch the premiere prior to it being released. And it was good, man. We were all like, you did it well. Like you honored Restrepo. You just showed what we were doing. And I have nothing bad to say about it. I like what they did with it, and everybody kind of came together for it. Now, later on down the road, it was up for all these awards and stuff. And then dudes were flying out to, from what I think the dudes were flying out to like LA and stuff for different symposiums and talks.
Yeah.
And I remember they flew out, and I think like 3 or 4 of my buddies had picture with like Tom Hanks or something on a red carpet. I was in SEER school, and I was like, oh, that's sick. So I just kept going through SOF, and it's funny because I think Sebastian wrote a book, and he kind of did a Where Are They Now thing, and it just says, for me, it just says like he went special operations, and I kind of disappeared for a long time. I feel really bad about that I've kind of like I lost contact with him over the course of a career in SOF, but it is what it is, But we're happy with it. It kind of ballooned out. Some of the main players in the documentary, we got kind of Army famous for a minute because they were starting to show it at 30th AG. I didn't know this. I come back from an Afghan deployment once I'm SF, got a beard, I got really long hair, and I'm walking through Hartsfield Airport in Atlanta, and all these privates are sitting there like, it's you. And I was like, whoa. And one of the drill sergeants was like, hey, like we show that on a loop when they're at 30th AG.
No
like when I went through, it was Band of Brothers, Gladiator.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So they all knew who we were. And I was like, this, all right. Somebody else, there was another conversation about magazines, and we were in the PX or whatever they had down there, and we were looking at the magazines. We're like, we gotta get all that shit and bring it up there because we don't got shit to read. We had one magazine up there for like 10 months, dude, and it was the June 2005 issue of Diesel Power. It was like a truck magazine.
Got passed
and
around.
We had all read it cover to cover, dude. And we're like, Diesel Power. So we were buying shit, and a guy kind of leaned over and was like, that's last month's issue. It was Men's Health, and we were like, do you have any other month's issues? If you have like the last 6, that would be super cool, homie. Like, just give us all this shit. So we started to figure it out, especially, with the guard towers in Bagram, and then, hanging out on Disney and going around the boardwalk. We were like, what is this? This is a foreign world. And toward the end of the deployment, people started knowing about it because they were like, oh, you guys were out at Restrepo. You're some of the ones out there. I don't know how word got to them. I still don't know to this day, but people would be like, they're from out there. We're like, we are from out there. What's going on here? But it was cool, man. It was cool knowing that we were part of something really special.
I'm sure. If you could, dude, when was the first time that like you all came together as like as a team up there? And like sometimes it's during a firefight, sometimes something significant has to happen. Maybe it's some adversity you guys push through. What was it? Was there like a defining moment where like you all came together and the team started clicking as one? Do you remember?
I can't point to a specific event because we were taking casualties early on. Restrepo, Vamoto. I mean, we had several casualties early on. Dudes were getting evac when Frank got shot. Rock Avalanche is when we really I felt, because they had been together for a while. Rock Avalanche was in October of 2007, and Rock Avalanche was a huge push through the valley, and it's when Larry Rugel died, and it's when my basic training buddy got shot, and then Sergeant Rice got shot in the stomach, and it was this huge mess, and it was over near the Talazar-Avaskar ridge lines where Red Wing happened.
Okay.
It's like right in that area. So like, and we had no idea, and I mean, that was just, we didn't anticipate. We got on Chinooks and we went another like 4,000 feet up, and we had no idea. So none of us had like the proper snivel. It was freezing up there. I ended up sleeping with another dude in a body bag that night, and we made the mistake of like zipping it all the way up. So our breath created like this condensation that was dripping on our face. We're like, that big heavy ass zipper. You're like, what's going on? What's happening? And it was, I have like several pictures of me that were taken with a point and shoot back then. And we're just grimy, dude. And I'm like wrapped up in this weeds, and I'm like with my saw, like, this is terrible.
Oh man.
But when that was done, we came down and we're like, well, it can't get any worse than that. Yeah. I remember asking an LT, because I was like, I don't know. I'll never know how I stayed so motivated going forward, because I was like, LT, I'm thinking about going to Ranger school. This was on this mountaintop during a big mission at a low point. I'm like, you think I can make it? Like, if we're doing this, and you think there's a compare? And he like looked at me like I was an asshole. He was like, are you kidding me? Like, yes, this is funny. Ranger school.
You're crazy.
Yeah. He was like, you're going to sleepwalk through Ranger school. This is insane what we're doing. And I was like, I'm going to be tough, but, I remember thinking that, being like, is this really that hard? Because we didn't think about it. You just did what you had to do, We did, whether it was a file, a column, a wedge. I'm like, following that guy. Got my saw. This is my sector. Like, yep. You did. It sounds cliche, like a private talking in World War II, but I'm like, I did what I was supposed to do. I did what they told me to do, and I trusted my NCOs, and I had fantastic NCOs. So I was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, here we go. This is what's up.
This might be a better question for you, man, and it might hit a little bit, but talk about coming back from a loss, man, because I've been there, dude. I after one of my guys got hit, or we hit an IED, or one of my guys got shot, the day after is a different feeling, and you kind of want to go back and make them feel it. You know what I mean? So, what's that like?
Man. Yeah, we experienced a casualty early on, and we had a little memorial for him, and I remember being really emotional and being like, man, I didn't really even know this guy like that well. He wasn't like one of my close friends, but he was part of the platoon, and I was beside myself, dude. Yep. And we were so mad, and I was like, I remember stepping back and being like, why was I so emotional? Because it was one of us, even though he wasn't a good friend of mine, and even though him and I really didn't have any conversations of substance,
didn't matter.
He was one of us, he held the guard tower with us. He was peeing in bottles. He was burning shit with us. So he was the homie. And, the command was always pretty good about giving a good speech, being like, hey, I understand this sucks, but we gotta get after it. We gotta take it to him now. And we did. And, but it really did suck, man, seeing some of that. And now that I look back on it, I'm like, these are the times when we pushed through and really came together. We had so many casualties and so many just different injuries and wounded guys that you were like, this just became a part of it,
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of why your story stuck out to me, man. The title Hard to Kill, really, I know it's kind of cheesy, but what it means to me is getting kicked down and getting, being at your lowest and triumphing through that adversity and picking yourself back up and keep going. And that's definitely what you guys did, man. If you can be proud about one thing down there, which I'm sure you can be proud of many things, but you took the Taliban probably, their worst. They dished it out to y'all, and you fucking kept going, dude, which not everyone could do, man. Props to you, bro.
Yeah, man. I mean, we had little OPs, and we'd sit out there and just, taking it to them. I mean, we were a really good platoon, man, and we were always getting hit by them. And there was just single shot Freddy. There's a famous video of one of my buddies, and there's this old sniper that would just shoot at us. He called him an old man, and he called him a blind old Afghan. And you'd shoot at it, and you'd be like, shit, is this the day I get hit? They had a Russian Mark 19, for a long time. So you'd hear this like thud, 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 thud. Yeah. And the Mark 19, so you hear the thud of it that sounded like our Mark 19, and you knew, you were like, oh, damn. I really hope that's not us. And you just waited for the impact. You were like, shit. But how we did basic stuff, dude. Movement to contact,
Yeah,
battle
yeah,
drills,
yeah.
up bounds, like the basic shit. And we just experienced so many different things that I could go on for days about just funny stories that happen up there, private stories. I touched the bottom of a Black Hawk in flight. They always tell you not to do that because it'll zap you. It zaps the shit out of you, dude. It's the absolute on the Restrepo chat, dudes were just talking about it. Like, you remember when Kyle touched the bird because we were trying to get the sling undone, it was like stuck,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it came down kind of hard. And I put my hand out, and it shocked me so
Rode the
bad, dude.
lightning.
Oh man, I rode it. I was like laid back trying to breathe. I was like, oh god, that's what they say to do that. Don't do that. I get it.
That's wild, dude. So, I mean, you just got out. What's the feeling, man? Is it weird, or t talk to me?
It is weird, man. It's surreal, dude. I miss it. I
Oh,
didn't
for
think I
sure.
would. I was so ready to get out, when I started doing the process, I was
Yeah.
so ready to be done. And now, the first day when I was in the house, I just kind of sat down and I was like, what should I do? I don't know what to do. And I pondered it for a while, and I was like, I'm gonna mow the lawn while I figure this out. I'm just like doing busy work because I'm trying to um
Fill that void.
yeah, and my buddy that works in JSOC, he gave me a really good piece of advice. I went to a funeral for a mutual friend recently, and I was talking to him, and I was like, he's like, "What are you doing?" He's about to retire too, and I said, "I don't know." He was like, "I was like, nothing's blowing my hair back," and he stopped me at the funeral, and he's like, "Nothing will. You just
Mm,
need to stop. You just let that go right now. Nothing will. You need to remember why you got out, but why you also loved it, and then you need to coalesce those two things into something you love to do,
damn,
because
that's
you're going to drive yourself nuts."
advice.
And I was like, okay, fair.
Yeah, I can work with that, right?
Yeah.
Huh. If you could talk to some of the guys that are hooking and jabbing now, man. I mean, we live in a different time. Warfare has evolved since the GWAT, dude. It's no longer IEDs. It's flying IEDs. It's drones are in the air. I mean, what would you say to them, dude?
I mean, be on your P's and Q's, man, because right toward the end of my career in SF, it started getting tech heavy,
Oh,
man.
for real?
Tech heavy. Yeah, they we started doing a lot of different training stuff, and they started incorporating soft back into the national training centers of NTC out in Fort Irwin. And we started having to go back to original, like, hey, take your smartwatches off. We're going tech free because they're tracking everything we're doing. And it was wild to me. And I don't want to say I phased out of SF because uh I'm more of an old school guy. I
Yeah,
came
yeah,
up
yeah.
doing one alpha up the mountain. But some of the tech stuff, I'm like, hey, be on your P's and Q's, and trust your guys, trust the technology, but always have a backup. That's why you have a compass, even though GPS is.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's such a. I feel like I'd feel the same way, dude. I come from the era you do, and I wouldn't trust it in a way. It's weird how like the generation after us has to kind of conform to not infantry tactics, but tech heavy stuff, and you have to trust the tech. And no, that's wild, man.
Yeah,
What do you think? What do you think about all the engagements going on right now, man? I mean, we got Ukraine, we got shit. I mean, you got the whole Israel situation. Iran. What do you think, man?
man. I mean, there's a lot of work going on. I know a lot of contractors that are doing stuff in the
Making
Israel
money, yeah.
Gaza area. Yeah, making a ton of money. Ukraine. I mean, I know 10th Group is doing a lot of good stuff, like helping them out with TTPs. But again, they're going back to enter and clear a trench.
That's what I'm
They're
saying. Yeah,
going,
that's what I mean.
yeah.
Yeah,
So like they're doing that, but they're also having to dodge these like incoming kamikaze drones that
yeah,
blow you up in the
wild.
face. I'm like, yo, like that's crazy. And
So it's
the
like World
Ukrainians,
War One scenario, but with like weapons of our day. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Yeah.
yeah. And Ukraine is like, they're not doing bad.
No,
That's the
no,
thing. They're like
I
they're
know.
they're picking it up. You've got this major superpower. I said this at the AAR at NTC. I was like, we all talked about them as a power competitor and one of the main things in the world. And now we're seeing, a third world army with
Come up to bat.
paltry
Yeah,
numbers coming at 'em. You're like,
yeah.
well, now how they're stopping their armored vehicles and tanks with sea wire and trenches, and you're like, we're back to World War One, like you said. Like, holy hell.
Well, I think we're seeing how money, I mean, it's coming down to the infantrymen again, dude. If you can tactically use or place a 40 Mike charge, whether it's you're trying to stop a big vehicle or, you're trying to take out a group of people. If you can place that properly, I mean, that's really what it is, right? That's what these drones are carrying, a charge of a grenade or, a 40 mic. If you can place that perfectly, you can take out a helicopter. You can take out these big vehicles. It's nuts.
Oh yeah. When I first saw that, the little claw that was dropping 40 mic rounds on people's heads, I was like, that is nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. But yeah, do you have anything you want to talk about, dude? Anything you want to leave us with?
I mean, hard to kill. I was shot in the head in March of 2008.
Savage.
Yeah, so that's where I get like a lot of my the notoriety from. It's funny when I did my VA claims, TBI wasn't at the top of the list or anything, and I'm like the poster child for TBI. I've been to the Intrepid Spirit TBI clinic, done the brain remapping stuff, and they were like, sorry, and they were like, you're like, we don't know if there's enough data. And I was responding, going back and forth, and like, could you send us a picture of your helmet? Like, I guess, like with the big hole in it. I was like, sure.
Yeah. Badass.
But yeah, I mean, when I saw Hard to Kill, I was like, well, and I've taken a turn because I kept going. Not a lot of dudes, that were at Restrepo kept going, and it's their choice. Whatever. They've had great lives. I'm proud to have known them and served next to them. Something my squad leader said to me that day, face is bloody from the ricochets and stuff. I got a big old hole in my fucking helmet. My hair was like crispy. And he's like, welcome to the first day of the rest of your life.
Damn.
I was like, okay, cool. And I spent about a day and a half sleeping in a real bed at the base of the valley, and they're like, you ready to go up? And I was like, I am. And I walked up, and they were all sitting on the edge of the HESCO shirtless, like cheering for me. And I will never forget that. Like, that'll be my Titanic moment when I die.
Yeah.
I'm walking back up to that, to a bunch of 22-year-old dudes cheering me on. That defined my life. And I think that's why I kept going, and kept searching for more and more and more. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do or why I wanted to do it until very recently. I went to a ranch and got to do a little shooting competition with some people. It was the Buck Commander Ranch, the TV show, and I was there, and I was talking with Adam LaRoche. He's a former professional baseball player, and it took that and the funeral with my JSOC buddy to kind of flip the switch, and so I've started doing stuff for fathers and sons that really, really lights me up, because I got out because I was tired of missing moments with my kids. I really, really was. In SOF, you can get a 4-day weekend. You can take an I gotta, like whenever you're off, you can just do it. And there's no, you put a pass in, like, no. But, in 2022, I was gone for like 260 days that year. And I got back, and my middle son, he like hid behind the counter, really didn't know what was going on with me. And that broke my heart. He asked my wife that he didn't want me to tuck him in that night. I was like, all right, this is it. Like, I'm done with it. And, that's why I got out. I got out so I could devote more time to them, and that's what I'm doing. But
awesome.
Yeah, so I've started a Facebook community called Frontline Fathers, because I like the idea of raising my men hard in soft times, and that's what I'm doing.
That's yep. Well said.
Well, when I was in SF, I would love to hear people's origin stories. Like, where did you come from? And there's some wild origin stories. But I started to notice that your Silver Spoon-esque people don't join those communities. You usually had some shit happen to you,
That's so
and
true.
I remember, yeah, and I remember thinking, like, dude be like, oh man, I was homeless and I was picking watermelons, and I was like, yeah, I'll just join the army. I'm like, what? And I had a pretty moderate upbringing, nothing major, but I was like, you never really hear like, yeah, I have a trust fund and we had a yacht.
Yeah.
Those guys don't join, and you're like, So I got on this question right when my son was born. I was like, how do you instill that hardness, that resilience, that grit, without inducing the trauma of like cigarette burns up the arm? Like, there's a way to do this, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what Frontline Fathers came from, because I'm always searching for answers. I love to hear other fathers' stories, like, hey, this is what I do, this is what I do. And I'm like, sick, dude. And it's just a place for dudes to come together and be like, I want to raise hard men. Yeah, Western society is super, super soft, but I want to figure out how to make my boys hard as woodpecker lips.
I love it.
In this society, and that's what I'm doing right now.
Good stuff, man. I'll make sure to tag that in the comments when I post your short. Love to hear it, man. Brother, thank you for taking the time. It was great talking with you. Good luck with the meet, and I'd like to maybe check in with you in a few months, man. See where you're at, and if you have anything that you want to post about, the thing that you're doing, the father, what Frontline Fathers, is that what it's called?
Yeah, Frontline Fathers.
Gotcha. Yeah, please
Yeah,
send it this way.
He came my son watching for the Patriot, and he asked me when they were having the argument about targeting of officers' engagements. He's like, "Why do they stand in the back?" And I was like, "Well, they don't lead from the front." He's like, "That's not right." My son, my 10-year-old, and he's like, "You should be in the front, like leading your men." And I was like, "Very good." So I came up with that based on that.
That's
so
savage. Love it,
but
brother.
yeah, man. And anybody can find me at Real Kyle Steiner anywhere. But yeah, I love talking, man. You wanna catch up? That's cool, man.
Sounds good,
I'm
brother.
here.
Well, Semper Fi, thanks for coming, brother. Have a good one.
Yeah, absolutely, brother.